Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Integrated Man Project podcast. I'm excited for this guest to be on and where he's at. Very different time zone, different place. We are in opposite ends of the world right now, which is kind of fun. It's about 11 o'clock my time or 2300 for those military listeners. And for him, I actually don't know what time it is, but I know it's early morning.
It's 8:23 a.m., so it's not that early. It's much
okay, not that early.
Yeah, it's not that early.
Yeah, not that early. And I want to welcome Greg to the show. So, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm looking forward to this one. I've been circled it on my calendar. This is exciting, man.
Well, I'm glad to finally have you on and knowing a bit about you and having conversations ongoing a bit on LinkedIn and following your stuff for a while now. I've been also excited to have, and I know we had a miss a few weeks back due to some internet issues, and dude, it is what it is. You know, life happens, and you had a big change in your life, a very positive change, and you know, I have all the grace in the world to say, dude, I get it. I'm a dad. You know, things happen, life happens, but I'm stoked for you and your family for the big change in your life. And so can you tell us just a quick, like, who is Greg? Like, what are you doing now? Like, what's a quick background? How many kids you have? You know?
Yeah.
Just a little snapshot of Greg.
A little snapshot of me. Okay. Well, I won't start from birth.
Okay.
But
yeah. At least start with like maybe preteen or something.
Yeah.
You know, right when life got good. Right.
Yeah. So, Greg VanDyne, former Green Beret medic. I got out of the military a couple of years ago. Have been, working in the med tech space for a while, and through my own struggles with mental health, have ventured into the mental health side of things, and really integrating myself at the intersection of like mental health and technology, and more specifically how we can leverage AI to more effectively help people going through mental health challenges. So that's kind of what's got me going right now in terms of like what I'm up to. I've got two kids, 5 and a 3-year-old, both boys. They're a handful. Feral human beings at this point in time, but they're my life. They're fantastic. Got my wife is an attorney for the Department of Defense, and that's what actually prompted our move over here to the Netherlands. So yeah, man, just enjoying dad life, embracing the uncertainties of the entrepreneurial journey, as I'm sure that you're well aware of as well. So it's been a fun ride, and yeah.
Well, and again, that's the big news, is the big move in a house, and that's huge. So I'm stoked for you guys to have some footing and a grounding, a place to settle in for a bit, and a totally new environment. And that's really exciting. And I also relate to the boys, the feralness of it all. Although I think right now it's my 5-year-old boy and I have a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old son, and then a 2.5-year-old daughter. I feel like she's probably the most feral in an odd way.
There's this Instagram reel that I was doom scrolling the other day, and it was like introducing like all like the types of girls, and it was like girls with other sisters, girls with a sister and a brother, and then it was like the youngest girl with 2 older brothers. And it was like just like her being basically just like a feral crazy person.
Yeah, she's got both. It's crazy. She's got this total feral side, and then the like uber, just what you think of like very overgeneralized girl, pink dresses, sparkles, necklaces, so she's got this range from that to just like straight feral. It's just this, it's one or the other. And then she really gets in there with the boys. Like she just like holds her own. Like, guys, we got we gotta be a little, just, she's smaller. You can't grab her by the neck, and you can't whip her down like that. Like I get it, but she's 2.5. She's half your size. And so, because when they get going now, they've hit this boost. I remember when they were 5 and 3, man, 7 and 5, it's a whole, like, they got more strength now, and it's like WWE in our backyard, like just all the time. Like they're just going, punching, kicking, and I'm like, okay, I'll let it go for a minute, but it's how it could quickly change to, this is fun and games, to, we're bloodied in the face and we're going to the ER. So I'm constantly like on edge of like, okay, I'm kind of monitoring. We're cool. Nope, we gotta, I'm watching the faces and seeing it shift to like the anger and aggression coming out of, I'm gonna kill my brother. So yeah, but I relate. it's a lot of fun and it's exhausting at the same
Yes.
time. Um, and so, what you're doing now is so it kind of intrigued me. This idea of how to leverage AI to help mental health. And the topic that I wanted just to kind of discuss with you tonight, and what we want to just kind of explore together is definitely mental health. And I would like to hear a bit what you do with AI, but more specifically, around men and men's mental health. And we just talked about this briefly in the green room, is that like, why do men suck, so to speak, at checking in on their mental health? And so that's the topic of tonight, the kind of broad umbrella, and what might be underneath that. I'm excited to hear from you. So I'm just kind of wondering a little bit about your story, and kind of what have you noticed in your own journey, as well as maybe the men you've worked with, maybe some of the ex-military, or just in general the guys you're working with now, around that idea of men's mental health, and why we kind of quote unquote suck at engaging in that.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that I think occupies quite a bit of my time, is trying to figure
Mm,
out where as a person that has recovered from their own challenges of mental health, is ongoing recovery from challenges with mental health, is like, how can I best help other people
mm,
not get where I was. So a couple of years ago, when I was getting out of the military, if anybody's familiar with it, if you're a veteran, or if you're just you've worked with veterans or no veterans, like, with the transition out of the military is a beast.
mm,
You go from like showing up every day and being with like your closest friends, people that you trust with your life,
mm,
and working on something that like you've committed your entire life to, and then
mm,
like one day it's just like all stripped away from you. You're no longer showing up to work with your friends. What you're doing is like not necessarily what you're super passionate about, and so you're stripped of purpose, stripped of community.
mm,
Your identity is was being, for me, it was being a Green Beret, and all of a
mm.
sudden it was gone.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that for a good while, and I think that I struggled in silence,
Mm,
just because I was the Green Beret. Like, I was supposed to be tough. I was mentally strong. All the stuff that I'd gone through in the service, like, this, surely, like, the transition, like, bring me to my knees, and it did. And
mm,
so that about 2 years ago, I contemplated suicide, for the first and really only time. But I knew at
mm,
that point that it was, I needed help. And after talking with therapists, finally getting treatment, I realized how unnecessary all of that struggling really was.
mm.
Now looking back on it, I'm grateful for it, because it's kind of brought me to where I am today, and it's allowed me to, like, focus a good portion of my career towards helping others that are struggling with mental health, and specifically, not exclusively, but specifically, veterans as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, we suck at, men in general just suck at talking about mental health, and like, I'm like example numero uno,
Mhm.
in that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah. And I'm wondering what, from your story, or from, and before we go there, yes, definitely transitioning, just to kind of speak to what you said of going from community, relationship, purpose, job, and kind of being dropped off a cliff, so to speak, of just that's all gone. So the transition is like, it's not like a gradual transition slope so much as it is just you're being pushed out of it, for lack of a better analogy, being pushed out of an airplane with like no parachute, kind of, sort of. um, and so it is kind of such a rapid shift. And that could be really a shock to, in your case, and for a lot, it could be such a shock to the system, to the psyche, to everything, right? And, you know, going to this notion of the story of your mental health journey, mental wellness journey, and kind of sucking at it and being numero uno of that. Can you speak a bit more of maybe why that might have been in a place of not opening up or talking about it, or being more conscientious of it or direct with it? Kind of what were some of those barriers for you, and maybe some of the barriers that you see in other men that you've talked with, worked with, whether within the armed forces or outside of that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first off, I'll say this too. I think, like, part of like also what was really difficult for me was that I also had I had my first son, then I had another son on the way, And, I had like all of these like things going for me. And like the most frustrating part of it all was like, I should be grateful right now. Like I should be happy. And like the guilt of not being happy with when you have like two young sons that are like awesome and don't deserve like, you not being present because you're feeling some sort of way. So that would also weighed heavy on me. But in terms of why men suck at opening up is, I think the foundation, a foundational part of it is that we've never been taught to open up about our mental health. In fact, like I think we've been told to stuff it deep down inside and not talk about it. And that I think has done men a total disservice. And I think that's why you see such staggering. I mean, men, I think it's 70 or 80% of suicides are males. And that, I mean, obviously that number is telling in and of itself, like that's a problem. I mean, any suicide is a problem. Like even if we, evened it out to 50%, like, it's not good. But I think that it tells you that obviously there's something going on with men in specifically that is causing them to be this way. I think that's number one, is like the foundational, like we don't open up because we were never taught to. And then the second thing, I think the big one is like the stigma around being like, just like a strong, confident man. And like and you opening up and saying that like, I am struggling, that being perceived weak. And there is, I think the most cowardly thing you could do. And like, I'm speaking from my own experience, like I was a coward in my eyes, like looking back, like for not opening up sooner and asking for help. I personally, like that's how I view it. It's might be a little bit, a coward might be like a strong word. Like it takes a lot of strength to open up, but like that is, to me, that is the true definition of strength, is like being willing to open up about your struggles and ask for help. And I think we get that wrong as well.
Yeah. It's funny you said coward, and that hit me. I was like, oh, I had a reaction to that. I was like,
that's the first time I've said that, but I think that I think I believe it. I think I'm gonna have to.
Maybe I'll change your mind.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
I'll throw something else at you. By the way, this is not scripted. Those that are listening, this was not something we talked about before. It's more of on the fly. Yeah, it hit me only because I agree. Like I think I partly could understand why you use that word. And I also do agree that it is a sign of strength, courage, bravery to open up and to kind of say, "Hey, I need help. I'm struggling." Now, a different perspective I'm going to offer you, because
coward is a strong word.
Yeah, so
it's a very strong word.
And the reason why, now I can maybe I want to hear more about what you mean by that. And I think where I go is, if I'm told my whole life, explicitly, implicitly, through family, through school, sports, just society at large, that to be a man, what it means to be a man is to not cry, to not show any vulnerable emotions, because that's weakness. That's being a whole bunch of also explicitive words that that we've heard probably on the sports field or at school, things like that, or it's girly, right? All that kind of stuff. So if you're told your whole life that really it's wrong, or you're weak, or something's wrong with you, or you're not a man, especially to express really any other emotion outside of maybe, anger, I mean, anger is a common one we're allowed to express, but if you show sadness, anxiety, worry, stuff like that, the more vulnerable, distressing emotions, and we're labeled as weak or less than or not a man or something else, then why would you open up, right? And so I think what I'm positing here, and this is kind of the thing hypothesis I'm working with from all the work I'm doing, is in a way then other emotions or opening up is a threat to the nervous system. And so from a nervous system perspective, meaning fight, flight, freeze, which is often a subconscious automatic response for survival. If my brain and body learn and detect that to share anything that would be considered weak as a man is a threat to the system, and so therefore I have to reject it and fight it by defending myself, by shutting things off, by disavowing parts of self or shoving things away, or distracting from pain or fear, sadness, whatever, then my automatic response will be to not open up. Because to open up is to be hurt, to be harmed, to be rejected, to be told again that I'm weak, not a man. And so my brain and my body already know that, quote unquote, that that's not safe, that's a threat, that's a danger. And so I go into an automatic response of survival, which is often either shutting down, numbing, distracting, maybe pointless work, doing whatever we can to kind of keep moving forward. And so I would say, again, I could be wrong. So this is where I push back, please, that I don't think it's cowardice as much as it's an automatic survival response to what I've been taught to survive.
I like that. So I think it could be both. I think it could be both.
Yes, please add to it.
And I think it's because I totally get that. Like if you've just been conditioned to stuff things away and not address them and stay even and not react and stay like emotionless.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And that is something that you need to unlearn. And I think that that's probably the case a lot of times. However, I think that there are people out there that recognize in themselves that, and this is me, I think that there is part of it where I was probably early on was like, okay, like this is just like what I do. I stuff this away and I don't address it. But there came a point where I knew I was like, this is not normal. I need help. And I chose not to go seek help. And I think that is the part where I say like, okay, you're a little bit of a coward for not going to seek help. Or I don't know. We can move away. I am open to moving away from the word coward, but it's like you're clearly like not facing something. Like you're not drumming up the courage to go and address what's wrong.
Yeah.
And
and when with that, and this is unique, obviously, I'm generalizing here. I'm making a general statement. So again, the unique story of each individual is unique. And so what I would want to know with that person is, okay, if I did open up, what am I afraid would happen? Because then we get the little more nuance of what's really behind them not saying something. Like what's the warrior fear? So if I did open up to someone that I'm struggling, here's what I predict would happen.
I can tell you what that is for me.
Sure. Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah. That'd be,
I am extremely critical of myself. I'm so critical of myself that it is difficult for me to take criticism because anything that you can say to me, I've already said to myself. And it's kind of like, no shit. Like, of course that's the case. And so like, I think I come off as I can in the past, I think I'm a lot better about it today, but I can come off as dismissive of somebody's feedback because I've already said this to myself. Like, of course. And so for me, opening up was a opportunity. Like it was me like, okay, I'm going to get even more criticism. And like, I'm not good with that. Like I think that was part of it. And which is wrong because I get feedback and criticism that is like, that I haven't thought about. And that's a good thing,
And what would that criticism mean? I guess what would be for you, like if I got criticized, that would mean what about me?
I'm already so difficult on myself. And if people are telling me things that are critical that I haven't thought of, like I don't know if I can handle that.
Sure. Yeah. Like is it like something like I really wouldn't be enough? I'd be worthless. I'd be
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a self-worth thing, like 100%. Like that is I know this. Like I've always gotten good grades. I was a Green Beret and I still have self-worth issues. Like I've performed like the 1% of the 1% of the population and I still have self-worth issues. Like there's something wrong there. Right. So that was definitely my, like, I question my ability to open up.
Yeah. And so, I mean, hearing that, and I appreciate your vulnerability and strength, by the way, what you're doing right now is a strength in sharing. And I really appreciate that. You just being open and just raw. And so even hearing that to me is way more, it's not just coward. It's there's so much more nuance to that.
Yeah.
It's about rejection and not having value. And so you could maybe use the word coward, but I don't think that, I mean, just to, not to like, trying to help you out of more of, it's so much more than just being a coward. It's the fear of being utterly rejected and being
Mhm.
worthless. So it's like the deepest fear of someone can have
Yeah.
is having no value. And so it's a self-protection mechanism. That's how I'm seeing it, to like, don't say anything, because if I'm already saying this and someone says something worse, this is going to affirm this. And so I don't want to even risk that. You could use the word coward, but I think that would be too narrow of a word, when I think there's way more story to that,
Yeah.
of, you know, that we'd be missing if we just said that. Because when I hear coward too, it doesn't validate or acknowledge the real deep fear, and more than that, the deep longing to be seen as having value and being enough.
Mhm.
That's how I see it.
I like
I don't
that.
know.
I like, this is a great topic of conversation, because I know that I'm probably not alone in the fact that, like, thinking that you lack courage or lack strength if you don't open up, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely not the only one.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
You're not. So I can say that. You're definitely not the only one. But one that I mean, I wrestled with that similar message too, of not being enough. For sure. That was one of my, I think, my shame narratives, which I did a lot of work around, and often trying to prove my value by achievement, and, success, and doing certain things, and titles, getting a graduate, becoming a therapist, doing these things at the time was, I then I would be enough, right? And that's kind of a fool's errand, right? In the end, the goalpost just keeps moving. In the end, when I discovered that no, I haven't, intrinsically I am enough. Now I could always improve, I can grow, I could change, but my value as a human is that I am enough. And I would say the same for your kids. Like if your sons came to tell you, "Hey, Dad, I feel like I'm not enough," you'd say what to them?
Yeah, that you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, that'd be like the easiest, like, yeah, well, you're wrong.
Yeah,
You are.
it'd be the easiest, like, that's not true. But when it comes to us, and I think this is very much the human condition, is that, when it comes to our own perception of self, we tend to be, that there's like that immediate auto response is so far away. It's more of the criticism, the other things that we get stuck in, the
Mhm.
fears and the worries and concerns. And so that kind of the friend technique, I call it, is think of someone you love and what would you say? And, 100% of the time, people don't have to think about it. Like, no, I would never say it to my son or my daughter or my friend or my
Oh,
spouse. I
dude.
would never say that to them,
I am,
right?
yeah, like, I consider myself a pretty, like outwardly nice person,
Hmm.
but oh boy, like, it would be interesting to, like, to take your inner voice and just do that externally for a day and, like, see where that gets you.
Yeah.
Treat people like
Yeah.
that.
It would, yeah, it would be a good exercise of like, let me record
Uh,
that and play it back
don't
to myself.
don't do that. Anybody that's listening,
No,
probably don't do that.
no, or have a big caveat of what you're doing, so people are keenly aware of what you're doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, even hearing that though, it's not just cowardice. It's, I don't think that'd be doing yourself justice. I think expanding that, and for other men that you work with, is like, there's more to it than that. I think that might be a piece and a component, but that lacks the full story and humanity. I think of the person you're sitting with, of the man you're sitting, helping, and you could speak to that and say, you're so much more than that, and it's not just about being a coward. That, while that might be a barrier, right, which is fear, right, and bravery is to overcome that cowardly, the fear, which is coward and fear, right, that is the same. I see it as the same, and overcoming that would be courage and bravery. But that's a lot of hurdles to come through, and a lot of stop checks, because also here's the thing with the brain. The brain's whole mission, well, part of the brain, not the whole brain, is to keep you surviving. And often, especially in things like this, it saves time by already having a mapping that, don't do these things. These things are threats and dangerous. Just do this stuff over here, right? Whatever over here is, whether it's, doom scrolling or working harder or trying to prove you're worth more, because to actually face this is like life and death. And so don't risk, that's too risky to go this way. So just keep doing these things, which we know in the end is not really effective, because it leads to often more suffering, pain, isolation, suicide, right? Things like that. When actually we need to turn, which does take bravery and courage. Also, who are we talking to about it? Are we talking to people that are going to be able to receive that well? And I think some men that I've worked with have tried opening up to people, and it was once again rejected, dismissed, etc. And so they've already predicted that, and they try to get the help, and then it's told. So then they even get more shut down of like, well, I'm never doing that again. And then we make vows in our head of like, nope, not doing that again. Nope. So it doesn't even come on our radar. It's like a major blind spot.
That's a great point. One failed attempt at like reaching out and asking for help can be so damning for an individual.
Yeah. Well, can you tell? Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear more thought on that. Like, why do you think that would be for an individual? Like,
Yeah,
why
so I personally didn't experience that. Like once I decided that like I needed help, I was able to get some pretty decent help. I mean, we can talk about the whole like in therapy and finding a good therapist is like, or not a good therapist, but finding a therapist that like works well with you and jives with you it's like I wish there was like a speed dating app for therapists, like where like almost like
there should be.
There should.
Call it that when people say it's kind of like speed dating. I may not be your fit. Just go to the next one. I often use that analogy with people.
Yeah,
there should be. I should develop that. We should develop that. We should do a speed dating app.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we'll side that for table that for later.
Yeah. Like we need anything else on our plates, but yeah.
Yeah.
What's one more thing?
It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. So going back to this thing of I'm curious more about that comment.
Yeah. Where were we? Okay. Where were we again? Sorry, I was just like totally.
Oh, it was the one failed attempt at opening up.
Yes, one failed attempt at opening up.
And how that could be so damaging.
Yeah, because when we've been talking about like the build up to like asking for help, and like imagine like you get to that point. Like I'll just put myself in those shoes. When I was ready to open up and finally was like, okay, like I need help. I know it. And if I were to have gone to somebody, like, fortunately, like my parents are fantastic. I get, give me all the support that I need, but like I can imagine an individual going to his father and being like, well, dude, I am going through it and this is really difficult. And then that person or your father being like, yeah, man, like, sorry, this is life and just deal with it. Like, suck it up, buttercup. That would, the chances of you opening up again it's going to take some time. Like that's rejection. You know what I mean? Like for somebody that is fearing rejection, that's what you're getting there,
Yeah. Yeah. It's the worst. It's the worst fear come true. And it would make sense. Why the heck would you open up again? Like you wouldn't. And to do it again would be like you said, already a massive risk to even say something to begin with, and then to be rejected. And then it'd be almost as if to ask again would be idiotic in the mind of that person. Like, why in the heck would I ever? I've already learned not to do that. And I've actually I've had comments with people like that saying, I've already tried that and it just went down. So I've just learned just to kind of keep going, which is it's so heartbreaking to hear those stories. And you mentioned from a dad, and specifically to hear that from your own dad would be just a knife to the heart, because that's such a big buildup of building up the courage to say something, and then to be completely invalidated and rejected is just like it could be worse than death, in one way. But when you opened up though, you had people were supportive.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Very supportive. I mean, I had, and the military, so there's a lot of issues with like receiving care as a veteran. But there are so many organizations out there that are willing to help. You just have to go and be proactive about finding them. And I think that's where like a support system like really comes into play. Cause it's like when you're down that low, like the last thing you want to do is like work around a bunch of like administrative red tape to try to get like care. So having someone that's like willing to like handhold you through that and be like hold you accountable, like, let's get through this. Like, I know it sucks that you have to like, fill out all these forms and all you want to do is like get better, but this is just part of the process. Having that support system, like for that is super helpful. And then just like, therapy, like you go to a therapy session for an hour, but like you still live your entire life. So like you have to unpack all of that outside of therapy as well. And having people that are willing to listen and talk through things with you and heal with you is super, super important. Like you're 100% not going to heal yourself within that hour long therapy session each week. Like there's so much work that goes on outside of it.
Yeah.
And a good support system it's worth its weight in gold for sure.
Yeah, and I think about those, and thank you for saying that, because I think I often share that with the clients I work with is, hey, I can't, in the hour session we have together once a week or whatever, while it's going to be amazing and powerful, right? As I sit with you and bestow no, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I don't talk like this, but I mean, I tell them, hey, now you're going to get some insight and we're going to do some work, and I'm going to do like hard work with you at times, and also a lot of listening and being present. But like, I think to speak to what you said, often it's what do you do in between sessions? How do you take what we're talking through and practice and implement and reflect and do some of that work? And that's where more growth happens. And the importance of having a support system or supporting environment versus going back to an environment that isn't supportive or there, I think is a significant difference in outcomes that I've seen with many clients I've worked with that have that kind of environment that is like very gracious, understanding, supportive there, versus like I go back into chaos, right? And I go back into an environment that is anything but that. In fact, that environment might be causing even more pain. Very different, I think, trajectories that I've seen numerous times. So I think that's I think a huge point is having good people in your life that can help share the burden and kind of journey with you versus alone, which I guess is really in some ways a military idea, right? I mean, to some degree, I would say, right? We don't leave no man behind or woman behind, right? That a whole notion of we carry each other's burdens, we help each other out, we're a team, we're not alone. So, but I know sometimes it's not always implemented perfectly when it comes to certain aspects in other areas, but I think the idea is a team approach,
Yeah. 100%. I mean, you bring up such a good point. Like I'm just trying, as you're talking about that, I was trying to think to myself what it would be like to have opened up, gone to therapy and start getting like good help and talk with somebody like you and feeling like, okay, wow, I'm really making headway. And then you go home and you're just like in this environment that doesn't, maybe not even home, but like maybe it's your friend group and stuff like that. It gets so complicated because if it's like, if it's your friend group, like trying to heal and then also say goodbye to, distance yourself from a friend group that you might have had for a while, like habits that have formed over time that you need to drop. It's just, it's mental health it's so crazy to me that it's not the number one most talked about thing. I know it's like there's still like a bunch of stigma around it, but like it is so complicated that like we have to be willing to talk about it. Like it has to be like something you talk about when you sit down with your family to eat. Like that's to me, like that's how important it is, because and the closer we get to that, the earlier we start addressing these things, the better off our next generation because this is like a whole other topic, but like there's just like so much noise out there. There's so many reasons not to not have good mental health. Social media being like the number one culprit of that. And I think that people just need to talk about mental health. Like it just needs to be a topic of conversation in everyday life.
I mean, definitely that upstream approach of starting young, like part of everyday conversation, normalizing it, just part of like physical health, everything else, like just how you doing, just basic checkups of like this is what we do when we talk up, and building emotional intelligence around verbalizing what's actually going on emotionally and bodily. I'm big on teaching kind of what's happening mentally and emotionally in your thoughts, but also what's happening, how's your body manifesting that, like as you feel this, what are you experiencing in your body, that fear, that sadness, like what's happening, what's the mind body connection. And so I agree that we need to definitely be doing it earlier. And I talk with my boys, and my daughter, she kind of gets it, but we do emotion talk all the time, trying to normalize feelings and talk about different things. And because I too believe that it needs to be kind of just on a ongoing regular dialogue around just life. It's it's just as important as everything else. And being open and having dialogues with my 7, 5, and 2.5-year-old.
As silly as that might seem too, because like I mean, obviously talking about a 5 and 7-year-old, like about their emotions it seems probably like kind of silly because like, you know, they're like so up and down and like they have difficulty like regulating their own emotions. But it's like if you like giving up feeding your kids broccoli after like one time, like if you were just to, like feed them once and they didn't like it, like they're never gonna learn to appreciate eating broccoli, and like, you know, they're not gonna like it, right? But it's just something that you have to just hit home and like slowly over time, like so when they become like when they are like 14 and 15 16 years old and they're dealing with like very confusing emotions,
Even more so,
that they're like, oh, okay, well, I've been talking about this for the past 15 years about my emotions. Like there's no question as to whether or not I'm gonna talk about this and you know, come to you and come to your wife and actually have like a no shit conversation.
Yeah, and that's the hope, right? I mean, that's the hope. If not me or my wife, like a good family friend that they also have been around. Another guy that I trust, another dad, another mom, right? Other people that they see us also talking with that's invested in their life. And again, going back to the community thing of having community even for my kids, the necessity of having that. Because I do know part of teenage years is also, you know, individuation and pushing against parents as part of natural, normal brain, human development. And so having people that they can go to and have confidence in is also very important. And that I know these people, that I know kind of how they think and their somewhat stance around that, you know, because I want to make sure that people speaking in their life are speaking truth and listening well and things like that. But something else you mentioned earlier too was, going back to finding a therapist, and we were kind of joking a bit about, you know, having a kind of a speed dating app for therapists, not dating because we'd lose our license. And
we'll have to come up with a different name.
Yeah, we'll call it something else. But people still do that and lose their license still to this day, by the way. It baffles me, by the way. And what I think I realize is it doesn't matter what training, what degree you have, how much money you have, people are people, and does not mean you're healthy or healed at all. It doesn't mean anything, unfortunately. But going back to finding a therapist, and I wonder, what was that journey, since you mentioned it, what was that journey like for you? Did you like the first one? Was it a hit? Was it like, don't like this, need to find someone else? You know, was that an easy process, a stressful process? What was it like?
It was, so the first therapist that I saw was like a complete flop. And the main issue was like I showed up and then like it was an hour of her talking and like telling me about like what PTSD is, what depression and anxiety are. And I'm like, okay, well, are you gonna give me a chance to like tell you how I'm feeling? Or are we just gonna like go over like definitions and you're gonna tell me like, and she's like, do you notice where you're sitting right now? And I was sitting close to the door. She's like, that's a coping mechanism, like a defense mechanism. And I was like, sure, like that's fine. Like you can think that, and maybe it was, I don't know, but like, we're not really, are we going to unpack this, or are we going to continue like talking at me? So needless to say, there was no second date on that particular.
Again, speed dating would have been great. It's like, cool, 5 minutes, we're out.
Yeah. Yes. Speed dating would have been great. Oh man.
It might work. We might be able to do speed dating a therapist and somehow make it work. I mean,
I'm just thinking about like the hilarity of like you just like hitting the next button and just like cutting off.
It's like, and I'm done.
Yeah.
Nah. So it could either go real good or real poorly. So, yeah. Sorry.
And so then
that didn't work.
That didn't work. But the next therapist I saw was fantastic. I mean, it was great because he was a former Green Beret himself. So like that was like instant rapport. Okay. Like instantly he gets it. Like he knows what I'm going through. And so it was just far easier to open up. And he got me, man. Like he like totally got me, nailed me to a T. And like, we were able to, and he listened. I think that was like the most, like I could tell that he was like listening and taking everything in. And I think I was probably very fortunate in the sense that I was able to hit it or get it right on the second go around. So like anybody listening to this that's like struggling finding a therapist, I would say like just don't give up, because like there's definitely going to be one out there that is going to be your cup of tea. You just got to be willing to go through. And not to say like with the first, like I probably got some stuff out of that first meeting. Like you're going to get something out of each therapy session, even if you don't necessarily jive with that person. And even if it's just to say like, this person isn't for me. And like, even that is like sort of helpful in the sense that like, I know like, it's like sort of like reaffirming, like, I know who I am and I know that this is probably not the person for me. So there is some, whether or not it ends up being a good fit or not, like there's some worth to just going and sitting down and talking with somebody for an hour, whether or not you jive with them or not.
And that's, I mean, not to get too off topic about why men suck at getting help, although this is part of it. I mean, it fits. It's under the umbrella of why men suck. And again, this is not that men suck. I know it's a tongue-in-cheek thing, but hey, it'll be a catchy title, and hopefully people click and listen. Why men suck, because yeah, I'm sure a lot of people want to get on that bandwagon. Different topic. But no, that like I think part of it is too is just the navigating finding a therapist. Where do you start? Especially, okay, I've been a practicing therapist for 10 years, so like I live and breathe this. So to me, I don't have to think about it. But if I've never gone to therapy, I don't know where to start. Like, where do you begin? Like, who and what do you look for? Right? There's actually, if I think about it, and maybe you could speak to this, there's a lot. And then who's paying for it? Is insurance paying for it? Do I have insurance? Is that, what kind of therapist do I need? Like that, there's a lot of questions there. Now, I could give ideas about what you may want to look for, but I think as an individual for the first time coming out, it could be kind of overwhelming, like, I don't know where to start. Who do I ask? My friend? Do I ask my dad? Do I look online? Like, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what it was like for you, or if it was like someone gave you a name.
So for me, it was pretty easy because I worked through a bunch of like veteran organizations to get me connected. So like that aspect of it was super, actually pretty easy. It was like the administrative side wasn't too terribly difficult. Getting like actual, like, cause I'm on antidepressant, anti-anxiety meds. Like that was like more of a difficult part of my journey, like getting the help through the VA, which is, the VA is great once you're in. It's just like kind of difficult to get started. That's a whole different topic though. But yeah, I'm like sitting here thinking as you're saying this is the point that I'm trying to make, doing it in a very roundabout way, is that I don't know. Like if you were to tell me right now, like when we get off this call, hey, go sign up for therapy. I don't like, I would search therapy, and I would like probably go online and try to find like, but I don't know, like, I don't know what therapy should cost. I don't know like what my insurance covers. Like there's so much that I'm like, I'm racking my brain right now. Like, okay, what I would search for therapy, and like, that's like, then I would be totally in the dark from there. I could just be shooting in the dark.
Yeah. And one, to your point, I'm glad that, because of, VA and everything, that they kind of helped connect you. And that's good. I think having a guide for sure makes the whole process much easier. But to the other point that you were saying it's like, I just type in therapy in Google, and who do I trust? Because there's a lot, like, what specialty do I need? Those are all huge questions. How am I going to pay? How much does it cost? What does a typical therapy session cost out of pocket? And do I have an insurance that pays for that? And are they on that panel? And how often do you go? I mean, there's a lot of, because again, we're not talking about it as much. So there's no, like, it's kind of like you said, shooting in the dark. Like, I have no idea what it's supposed to look like. Again, I know because I do this all day, every day. That's what I live and breathe this. But anyone coming in it is kind of like, it's a lot. It can be a lot of hurdles. And for some people, there is no, it's like they are Googling or just kind of figuring stuff out as they go. And I think having education around that ahead of time would be helpful to say, hey, as a therapist, here's the things you want to think through, things you want to look for, things that, you may want to check into this therapist furthering education outside of therapy school and graduate school, because that's really where they get most of their training anyway. Even though graduate school is about 3 years, and then we have to get 3,000 hours in California to get licensed. Well, most of my expertise came in continuing education and getting further certifications, which was almost like taking mini master's courses on top of my schooling. And so these are things that if you don't know, you don't know. But regardless of that, I think, and you kind of said this earlier, is difference between therapist one, therapist two. And I do respect your viewpoint on the first one, saying, "Hey, I still learned something from it." That's a very mature response, I would say. Is even though it didn't fit, I took away something. But the difference between therapist one, therapist two is that you felt heard and understood and listened to, and that you trusted him. Right? There's a
Yep.
trust there, and I think that is, the biggest predictor of success in therapy is the level of trust you have in your therapist.
Yep.
And
That's like, if you don't have that, you're never going to get anywhere, because you
no.
can't trust what your therapist is like, the feedback that your therapist is giving you. Like, yeah, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, definitely shit out of luck. Definitely SOL for sure. I mean, you are, and a lot the research will speak to that, of like that is the biggest predictor of success. Now, we need skills, we need tools, and I do believe that some people need specialties. I'm not saying not everyone can treat everything. I think that's a misconception. And I know some how do I say this?
Go on and say it. Say what you want to say.
Some health insurance companies, I might work for one. Partly is that they say everyone's like a generalist and there really is no specialty. So you kind of just get first come. It's just like whoever's available. Now, therapists in general could treat a lot. Most therapists, we could do a lot of basic stuff, but some people do need specialty and they need someone who has further expertise in a particular area to be effective. I think to be most effective. And I think sometimes our industry can be treated, at least when you're dealing with somewhat level of insurance and reimbursement, is that it is kind of an expectation that you should it's like a one size fits all, versus no, we need to be a little more nuanced, and we might need to look for something very specific to help us individuals so they can, one, spend less time in therapy, so they're out much more quickly, and have more effective holistic change that's lasting. And this is just from my own experience, because and also it's a growth, because when I first got out of grad school, like I knew a lot, but I also did not know a whole lot. Which is also hard as a therapist, because we're supposed to be sitting in front of people as the expert. And I soon realized that's not the case. I'm like, shoot, I don't know that much. Like I know a lot, but as I'm sitting with this person in front of me, I'm seeing all of my blind spots, weak spots, and things that have big holes in my brain that I have no idea what to do. So I think, not to scare people coming to therapy, by the way, for the first time. But I think it's like in any job, any industry, but it's like I'm dealing with a person here and I got to do my best. And thankfully we do have supervision that we turn to. We can talk to people and get some help who might have that expertise. But I think if you're a person looking for therapy now, I think being able to like understand different models of treatment, like, CBT, DBT, EMDR, somatic work, or drug assisted therapy. I know you recently posted something about, a drug that was not going to be able to be used by the VA, but like all these things, like educating people on kind of what these things do, because as you're kind of shopping or speed dating, it would probably be helpful to know what these things are, because I know what all these things are, but someone coming in, it's like, these are all like, I don't know, acronyms. I don't know what half this stuff means. And what is that? What is this? What's this? What does this do? And what's the right treatment for me? And so I think having education, like with the kids and everything else, is like so needed.
This needs to be part of the app, I think. Is that you teach, like, it's like you like go through a questionnaire and like, are you self-pay? Are you this? Are you that? And then it like filters through all of the different providers that are available to you.
Yeah.
And then you speed date them.
I like that. Yeah. And then maybe with that, it tells you some treatment modalities or protocols that have been shown to be effective for, whatever problems you're coming in with to want to resolve. And then maybe a little blurb about each one, with like links to a website or their main site to give, more deep dive in each one. And then you can speed date and see people's like, hey, this person, that's what they do. And you can see, yeah. Hey, we're onto something. Look at this. We're already onto something.
Dude, we are onto something.
I'm into it. I think it's a good idea.
I'm gonna go tell my wife about this, and she's gonna be like, "No, not another goddamn thing, Greg.
No, you have enough on your plate, Greg." Yeah, and so well, I'm glad that your second therapist was effective, and that you found someone who could listen well and who got you, and that in a way gave you a sense of like safety, that there's a familiarity, like you said, that kind of enabled you to kind of like, oh, cool, like he gets me. and I can go there. And out of curiosity, how long did you see that guy for, give or take? Was it 6 months, a year, two
It
years?
was
Still seeing him?
like 6 months because
6 months.
it was we stopped because I like to see therapists in person.
Hmm.
So I'm working to find one over here um,
In the Netherlands.
in the Netherlands, which is not it's
Yeah.
not too terribly difficult.
Okay,
It's
that's
just
good.
figuring out I'm trying to find somebody that's on base first over here, so I don't have to pay for it. But if I do have to pay for it, it's fine. Again, it's just all comes down to like if there's somebody that I jive with on base because they're all military. Usually a familiarity working with military at least. So, but yeah, I saw him for 6 months and then we stopped as soon as I left for the Netherlands.
Okay. And was it? I mean, from your experience for 6 months, like, did you kind of were you able to see a difference from like day one to 6 months?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. We did EMDR therapy too. He was
Oh,
certified, so that
nice.
was anybody out there like EMDR therapy is like fantastic.
I
It,
agree.
yeah, yep. I know you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so that was super helpful for me.
Yeah.
Like I could like literally
Mm.
feel my anxiety levels
Oh,
like
so good.
dropping as I was
Oh, it's so
doing
good.
EMDR therapy. So that was fantastic. Um, yeah, there and so over here, it's like totally off topic, but there's transcranial magnetic stimulation. Have you heard? I'm sure. Have you heard of that?
Hmm.
So University of Maastricht. So that's sort of close to where I live, or it might be Maastricht University. It's like 20 minutes away. They are like the like premier institution for TMS. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get referred over there to start doing some of that because that's supposed
Mm.
to be extremely helpful as well. I'm like
Yeah, yeah, it
total
can be.
nerd.
Yeah, yeah. No, it can be. Especially for those that are, at least my understanding, and usually people that are treatment resistant and medication resistant, and they've done trials and nothing's moving. They'll do TMS or ECT is another one. People have tried, but I mean, dude, if you had success with EMDR, not to tell you what to do, but I'd say try and find someone who can keep doing that or some
Yeah.
somatic work, because that stuff, you know, it's 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 not typical talk therapy.
Yes. No, it's
Um,
definitely not.
and I think that's the shift, is that I think is because even EMDR sessions, like I don't, with people, I tend to kind of, we do like an EMDR session and then we kind of have then we have like more of a brain session, like a processing session, which is more typical talk therapy. And then do an EMDR session, like a desensitizing session back. So it kind of helps the kind of understanding of what happened and then actually moving through the movement. Right. And same thing, I found stuff I used to do previously before I learned EMDR. When I now know EMDR, I'm like, how was I doing? I mean, again, you know what you know.
Mhm.
People did get better, but it was like 10 times longer. Like now that it's like a power tool and it's really effective. It's so much quicker than just talking through things. Um, because it's getting to more of some of it's the body stuff, it's the stuck emotions, it's the images, right? All that stuff is kind of helping the brain be reintegrated. So I'm so glad that you had a good experience of EMDR, and I always love hearing that it's successful to people, and they
I,
find benefit. So
have you had somebody that's not been successful? I'm sure that they're out there, but like
yeah,
like way more often. Like I personally haven't heard anybody that's had a negative experience with it, but
yeah.
I obviously my
No, I haven't
sample
had
size
any
is
kind of
smaller.
negative experience. I've just had a couple things I found in my own doing it is I've had a few people with some pretty significant ADHD. I've had to get more creative with it, because of, a few that their brain is like all over the place. And so I've done a little bit, I've changed the protocol a bit to help them. I've had to be more like sticking with the body sensation versus just like, um, allowing what we say is, hey, we're going to start bilateral stimulation right now with the tappers on, or whatever you're doing, light bar, hand, or sound. Let whatever happens, right? So when I do that with a few people that have had some pretty significant ADHD, like they just kind of get stuck in all the like the rapid firing of everything. And so I've had them stick with more of, hey, just focus on just the body sensation and just follow that. So keeping it really tight. But initially, when I started working with a few, I'm like, we're just like looping. It seems like we're not going anywhere. So that's one thing I noticed. Also, initially working with someone who's really, really depressed, like too depressed, where they're too numb and disconnected. It's hard because they're not activated enough to get their mind and body engaged in the processing. So with them, it won't be successful until I wake them up a bit. So usually that's when we recommend like an antidepressant or something to kind of lift that depression a bit so it's not so heavy. But yeah, so I think it's not that I haven't had people found be successful. It's that I feel like some people, depending on what they come in with, we have to be more creative with it and to figure out how we get them to be able to process. I think is what I've personally what I found. But outside of some of those extremes, yeah, most people now it's like we get in, we get out, and things are shifting and moving pretty quickly, which I really like. And we're not having to talk about it really at all to some degree,
Yeah.
which is cool. So anyway, it's so stoked that you had great experience. And it's good to hear. So, and TMS is a whole other research thing and another treatment modality that again people don't know about, right? It's a whole other ballpark, whole other game. But it can be effective, and I've seen people have really good effects from it. I've also worked in places where they came back and didn't really see much was different. You know, I've seen both. So I think even the research has shown that too a bit. It just depends. But,
Yeah.
Going back to why men suck. I'm wondering, as we kind of being mindful of time, we could probably keep talking for a lot longer about all this stuff, but I want to be conscientious of your day with your kids and your family. And
also, it's midnight. It's 12:30 now. So
yes, 12:30. Yeah, no, I understand. I already understand what I'm doing. I've accepted my fate. That I'm going to be tired tomorrow. But I'm wondering if we think of if you would encourage your younger self about this, or a guy who's coming in who's hesitant, what would you want to say to them about their mental health, or about opening up, or about showing courage and kind of coming in to seek out some support? Like, what would you want them to know? What would you have wanted to know at that time that you were struggling? What would have been helpful?
Yeah. I guess first off is that you're not alone and this is so common, and there's nothing wrong with you. This is just like part of being human. I think that that is important to know. Like, just because you're struggling with your mental health, like that says nothing about you as a person other than you are human, and that should stick with you. The next thing that I would say is it gets better, and it will get better. You just have to allow yourself the time and grace to get there, because it's going to get worse. And I don't want to like scare anybody away from like seeking help, but like it gets worse before it gets better, and you have to be okay with that. Yeah. It's not like you don't like show up to therapy and like have this like linear path of things getting better. You're going to be like, you're doing this because you're strong and you're willing to do hard things. And part of doing those hard things is looking into why you're feeling this way. And that can be really, really difficult sometimes. And, but that shouldn't discourage you from continuing on and working through and healing. Because it's just like anything in life, like you get in what you put out. And I think like getting started and like just being, I mean, I always like realistic advice, and I don't want to like sugarcoat anything. Like, it does, it's hard. It's difficult. Therapy is difficult. It's not easy. And if it was, everybody would be perfectly happy and we'd live in a utopian society, and it would totally suck. And so that's like would be like my 30,000 foot view of like because it's like you're saying, like it's so complex. Like we've talked this whole time, like it's so complex. Everybody's different. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's trauma is different, but at the same time, it's all very similar. Like it all takes like the same type and level of effort to heal. Yeah.
And I appreciate that, that wisdom and kind of what you would have told yourself or guys you work with, and that, it is, to some degree, it is harder. You're asked to face and walk through the pain and move through it. And so that's hard. It's a hard ask, if I'm honest. Like that's hard. That's a hard day when just checking out, numbing out might feel better momentarily in the short term. And so it's a tough shift, a mentality, of mindset, of everything else. And so again, more so of having a supportive environment, right, when you are coming home, I think makes everything that much better for you when you're having had a hard therapy session and stuff came up and you're pretty drained or tired, especially, doing EMDR the day following day or two following after a pretty intense EMDR session, you could be pretty wiped out and tired, right? I mean, that's usually what I've experienced with my clients. I'm not sure if that's was your experience or not, but you could be pretty extra tired or out of it or fatigued because it's a pretty hard internal workout. Yeah, I second those that, hey, you're not alone. It's human. You're not weak. We all need support, and men need to hear that more, and normalizing that it's not weakness, part of being human, and it's okay. And there's a lot of people to support. It's just, hopefully that, and I know for some men, they've had experiences where it's not supportive, but there is support out there. And you just have to look in the right place. And so with that said, last two quick questions. One, where can we find you if people want to follow you, listen to your stuff, etc.? Where can we find Greg?
So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can just find me there, Greg VanDyne. I talk about mental health quite a bit. So if you're interested in that type of content, I try to keep it pretty uplifting and don't get negative. So always try to be a right spot in people's feed, and also talk about challenging topics, which is mental health. Mental health is just a challenging topic, and it deserves, and my whole point is to get it out there, and kind of like we were talking this whole time, just make it prominent part of our lives, because it is, and give it the platform it deserves. So find me there. I also have a podcast called the Harder Not Smarter podcast that I host with my buddy Kevin Seif, who's a former Navy SEAL. So we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about mindset, and we also talk about mental health. So that's where you can find me. You can find me on any listening or viewing platform like YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We're on all of them. So just go where you listen to your podcasts if you want to listen to us. So that's where you can find me.
And direct links for all those things, those watching, those listening, will be all in the description. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all there to click to take you to all these places to see Greg. And the final question, real short, but an important one, is what current music are you listening to that's speaking to you?
Oh, goodness. So, so I usually, when I'm running, or I do acoustic chill, on Spotify. That's what I listen to. So I am the literal worst at song names and artists. If there's a song playing on the radio and you ask me who's singing it, I will tell you it's Ed Sheeran, and it doesn't matter if it's Ed Sheeran. Yeah,
everything's Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. So there's no specific song. However, one that I do know that I really enjoy listening to, and this is more for if I'm working and just need some background music to, I don't know, drown out my thoughts. I don't know why I listen to music while I'm working, but it's called Ludovici Ainati. He's a classical pianist and musical artist, and so he's got some great stuff. I listen to Best of Ludovici Ainati on YouTube. I just put on his best hits, and it's it's just really good. I don't know, if there's it's weird to say that classical music gets me hyped up, but that kind of does makes you it's some background Jason Bourne music, getting my heart rate up.
No, I think that's great. It's the Acoustic Chill, and I'm gonna butcher the name, but the name that you said,
Ludovici Ainati. Yep.
Ludovici Ainati.
That's pretty good. I could be butchering the name. I've never heard it before. That's just how I pronounce it.
Well, you have to share that link with me, and I'll put that in the description as well. If you want to listen to this guy, you could. Everyone else could find Acoustic Chillmix on Spotify. That's easy. But this one, to get it right, I'll put it in the link so you can click on it. Hey, Greg, thank you, and thanks for just being here, showing up, opening up, being authentic, showing strength, vulnerability as a guy, and just having this conversation. And blessings to the work you're doing, and that you have done, that you will do. And yeah, man, just thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Have a good day.